I think.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Hello, Evita. Nice to meet you. Finally
Nice to meet
connected.
you.
And thank you so much for the time here today. So for this series, I would like to highlight Indonesians who live abroad and who have done successfully for themselves abroad, whatever their industries are. And I stumbled upon who you are because of Michelle Obama, as we understand that you actually designed and created the top that she wore during the inauguration for Biden recently. But let's talk way before that, right? So
Yeah.
you are a designer, right? And you own a company called PDR Knitting, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Where are you originally from in Indonesia?
I'm from Bandung.
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 And did you study design, fashions, and things like that back in Bandung? How did you learn your trade?
Oh, okay. So I moved here when I was in high school. So that was a long time ago. And my major in university was business, actually. It wasn't design. So after I graduated from university, my mom and we started a business. So we had a boutique here. And then it was going very well for about 3 years. And then there was a big box franchise business that came to town. So I told my mom, I think this is not going to survive very long. And then we decided to sell the business. So after I sold the business, I told my mom, maybe if I become a manufacturer, so I can sell my stuff to retailers, and I don't have to worry about franchise or more competition with the retailers. I don't have to worry about foot traffic, right? So I decided to go back to school and study design. So that's when I studied design. I wasn't into fashion. I was never into fashion, but my mom loves fashion.
I see.
Yeah.
So is that the reason why your mom and you started that retail store in the beginning, which was in the fashion industry, like
Yes.
clothing and stuff?
Yes. Yeah.
When you learn your master, I guess, your master for design, is that correct?
It's not a master, so it's another degree, but it's in fashion.
Oh, it's in fashion.
Yes.
Did you specifically learn about fashion as in the history, the general fashion, or actually
No.
creation of the fashion?
So my major at the time was actually manufacturing and design, because my goal was to be able to get a job in a factory. So that was my goal, so that I could learn about production, I could learn about manufacturing, I could learn about distribution and stuff like that. So I just wanted to stay away from retail, basically.
I see. All right. And then how did you, okay, so after you finish your second degree, so how did you go right away to PDR Knitting, or what happened?
Oh, no. So my first job was actually in knitwear. It was a knitwear studio, and it was just 3 people operation. So basically, it was it's more like an agent. My boss did not have his own factory here or overseas. And so basically he was just a design agent for designers, so designers who want to create something or design something, but with high minimums. So he would have contacts with overseas manufacturers. At the time, it was China and Korea. So he would send the designs to those factories overseas, and he would basically oversee everything, from development to productions. Basically, an agent, it was just, like a liaison between the designer and the factories, because most factories, they and mind you, this is about 20 years ago, they did not speak English very well at the time, So by having somebody as a liaison, it will help the factories to get more business from the US. Yeah. Okay. So that was my first encounter in knitwear.
All right.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And then I got laid off from that job. because it was so small. And my boss was an Italian man, and he said to me, I actually need somebody who could speak Chinese. And you're Chinese, but you don't speak Chinese. Why? And I said, oh, I'm so sorry, but I'm Chinese Indonesian, so I don't know how to speak Chinese. My parents don't speak Chinese. And so he was very nice at the time. He said that, take your time, find a job, you can keep continuing working here. And when you find a job, help me find another person, and then you can go to your new job. So I thought that was very nice of him, so he wasn't really leaving me in the dust. So my second job was upgraded, of course. So I became a designer in my second job. Now, this was different, but the main design office was here in LA. So we would design here. It's out their own label and everything. So we did not take other people's, designs. So it is our own designs. And also my boss, he was a Taiwanese guy, and he had huge yarn companies in China, in Guangzhou. And then he has his own sweater factory. So it was a vertical operation, from the yarn spinning, dyeing, what else? Like development of the yarn even, to the sweater manufacturing. So that was my first exposure to a vertical operation. And I had to travel back and forth from here to LA because I was the main designer there. So I had to oversee my development, my designs, and then I would have to be in the development room in China, and then, approve the pre-production and everything, and then came back here. So that was my life for about 2 years.
I thought you were in LA. So where are you? I thought you were in LA.
Yeah. So I went back and forth from LA and China when I worked for my second job. Yeah. So that was really interesting because I think that was my biggest, most valuable learning experience. Because then, it wasn't really like I did not know knitwear from school. I had no idea. I don't know anything about yarns. I didn't know anything about knitting. I didn't know anything from school. So my boss actually trained me a lot, in the yarn factory side and in the knitting factory side, to understand all the process, how to use the yarn, how to combine stitches and fibers and so many things. So that was the most valuable experience. And then I worked in that company for about 2.5 years. And then after that, I got another job domestically, also in the knitwear business, but it was a domestic knitwear company.
Sure. Yeah. And so when did you actually start PDR knitting?
So while I was working at my last job, I had a car accident. It was pretty bad. So I had 2 car accidents in a month, and then the second one I was basically totaled, and the car wasn't repairable, and I had to go through physical therapy and everything. So I had to quit. But I worked there for about 2 years. And then, so I told my boss, I can't, I can't work here for too long because the physical therapy place and my work was about 50 minutes without traffic in the freeway. So yeah, it was quite a drive. So, and then I quit that job because of the car accident. And then, so after, I was rehabbing at home actually. And a friend of mine gave me a call, and then he said, can you knit some sweaters for me? And then at the time I had my hand loom machine. And so it's basically a hand-driven knitting machine. And so I knitted the sweaters for my friend. And then he told his friend, and the friend told his friend. So that just spiraled from there. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
How long ago was this?
that was 15 years ago.
So PDR knitting has been literally established for 15 years.
Yep. It's been 15 years.
Wow. All right. It's so right now for at PDR Knitting, you're the owner, obviously. You
Yeah.
design, you maybe you have employees to knit them, right?
Uh, so yes, well, I started out with hand loom because when I worked for a domestic knitting factory, I was the designer also. It was mainly hand loom, and then he only had about 2 or 3 big industrial machines at the time. And mind you, again, this is about 17 years ago, right? So industrial machines were not that popular at that time. But that was my first encounter with industrial machine. But I was more familiar with hand loom because of my last job at the time. So anyway, when I started, yes, mainly my employees were hand loomers. So yeah. And now I have gradually moved into all industrial machines. Yes. So I have 10
How
industrial.
many employees?
Right now I have 16. Right now I have
Okay,
16.
but are you still designing everything, or do you have a co-designers employees as well, or?
Oh, no. So basically I deal with a lot of creative designers. So PDR knitting is very different than other knitting factories because a lot of my clients are basically artists, and they're more artistic. They want unique products. They want something that is different, outside the box, so they want something that has never been tried before. So a lot of my designers are very creative. They're not really designers by trade, but there a lot of them are influencers, so they have so many crazy ideas, but they just don't know how to execute it in knitting. So that's why my work is mainly not really design, but it's more in the technical design.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And so basically that means all your items are one-off. Yeah. There's no copies. It's just one item for
Eventually they're produced in bulk, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, eventually. But each one is creative. Like for example, that brand Camp High. I don't know if you saw in my Instagram, so that brand Camp High is very unique. Sometimes we just produce only in whites, and then they do other things like the tie-dye or ice dye or something else to make it unique. Yeah.
All
So
right.
basically what we do is just the technical design.
Sure. It's kind of interesting because you mentioned that you were from Bandung originally, right? Your family's from Bandung.
Yeah.
And Bandung, of course, everybody knows it's like the hub for manufacturing garments, right? In Indonesia, right? And then you went abroad not knowing that you're actually going to have this Bandung essence inside of you.
No. And I'm not from a garment family either.
Right, exactly. But it's kind of funny. It's like full circle now that you're back, doing what people do right now still, right? So that's amazing. Now, let me ask you your journey, right? So you've been doing this for decades, obviously, and you've lived in America for so long, and you've quite established yourself there in America right now. What would you say, especially when you're starting your own company, what would you say are like the biggest challenge that you faced, when you started PDR Knitting?
In general, I feel like when you work for someone, you are so sheltered, right? So everything is provided for you. You're so sheltered. Your boss shelter you, and they basically gave all you need. That's how I felt, because then when I started on my own, I was just like, oh, now I'm all by myself. Like I don't know a lot of things. Like what am I gonna do next month when I don't have any orders? Where am I gonna get the money from, right? So Yeah, a lot of uncertainties that I did not know at the time. And that actually made me think more creatively how to find ways, how to be competitive, how can I establish myself different than any other factories? Because knitting factories is very common. I mean, what would differentiate my factory and these other, a lot of them are Korean owned companies. So what would differentiate my company with their companies, right? So a lot of these old owners are very fixed on their what they do. So they just want to get the orders, bulk orders. They don't want to try new things. They don't want to try different things. They don't want to do unique things because for them it's a waste of time. And for me, I think that's more challenging. So the uncertainties actually motivated me to thrive more, and be more competitive in the industry.
Do you feel like as an immigrant, right, and as a woman of color, do you think there are more challenges that you faced during this whole journey?
I don't think so. I don't think
No, you
so.
don't?
I mean, for myself, no.
Not really.
Actually,
Okay. No.
yeah. Actually, I don't think so.
Okay. No worries. All right. No. I mean, if there's none, there's none. I mean, that's good for you, right? But I'm sure.
Right.
I mean, there are women out
Right.
there who have experienced sexism or racism because of
Oh
that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That, especially with today's situation, of course. I mean, that's been quite a common theme, unfortunately.
Right.
There are not a lot of Indonesians. I mean, again, look, let's put it this way: there are a lot of Indonesians actually living in America, right, all over America.
Mhm.
But then, not a lot of them actually are entrepreneurs or who are successful entrepreneurs such as yourself, right? What would you say was the one thing that really differentiate you from the other Indonesians who have tried to make it abroad but didn't really make it?
That's a very good point. And this is my personal opinion only, okay? And
Sure.
don't think of it as, like I'm very stuck up or, arrogant or anything.
Sure.
I think one of the biggest mistake of any immigrant, wherever they may be from, is that they tend to congregate within their own community and they don't want to step out of their comfort zone and adapt to the new adoptive country. I think that's wrong.
I see.
For example, I had one employee and she's from Mexico. She's been here for 40 years. She still speaks barely any English. And the same thing with Indonesian too. Like Indonesians go to Indonesian church, and I did too. I mean, I met my husband in Indonesian church, but like, for example, my husband, when he was still in Indonesian church, like he would hang out with his friends almost on daily basis with all Indonesian friends. And a lot of Indonesians always hang out only with Indonesian friends. They just don't want to have that diversity. So how can they know what's going on outside their own bubble, and I think that is limiting yourself, that's limiting your network, that's limiting your ability, that's limiting your language skill even, and also networking skill. I think that's a big issue.
Sure. I totally agree with you. And I had this discussion actually a couple of weeks ago with an American friend of mine here in Indonesia. We were talking about how, especially Chinese, they tend to congregate among the Chinese,
Yeah.
really get out of it. Whereas if you see Indian Americans, they actually tend to get out more out of their bubble. So I agree with what you said. I mean, I've seen that when I was in America as well, living there. Do you have any interest or any plans to I don't know how to say this, to like bring Indonesian style into your design, your fashion line, to basically what you're doing right now?
Sometimes I would suggest to my customers or my clients, my designer client, why don't you inject this? Why don't you have a splash of this? Some inspiration. Sometimes I can, sometimes I cannot if they already have some kind of plan, but sometimes they ask me what would make my stuff more unique and more, different than other people's stuff. So then I would just suggest something for them. But I mean, I don't have my own line, so I can't say.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. What would your biggest accomplishment be until today in terms of professional life?
Professional life. I don't know. I feel like every challenge is an accomplishment in its own. And whether it's for Michelle Obama or for some student's portfolio, I put the same amount of effort in my professionalism to execute their designs. I have done, seniors portfolio for design students for their, end of the year show. And I didn't get paid for that, but it's okay. So, I still put the same amount of effort, and seeing that student got an award, I felt very accomplished and I felt very proud. So whether my stuff is worn by Michelle Obama or worn by some, graduating senior, I feel the same pride,
No, that's good. That's good. It means you really care about all your products, right? All your projects,
yeah.
Right? But I do want to hear about this Obama story, because this is really amazing, right? Tell me what happened. Like, who called you? I mean, like, what do they say to you? What happened there? How did they connect to you?
Well, okay. So Sergio Hudson, the designer, has been my client. So we've been working together for about a year. And then, so I remember at that time, I got the email like around 5 o'clock. So I was ready to go home at the time. And then, so I checked my last emails before I went home. And then I saw an email from him. And then he said, super secret project. And I read the email, and then I was like, okay. And I didn't know what to do, and then I was in like kind of like in a panic, and then I was like, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to make a sweater? What kind of sweater? I didn't see that he actually sent another follow-up email of his sketch. I think he forgot to attach it, or I don't know what it was, but I did not see it. So I only saw the first email, and he wrote, "This is for Mrs. O." And please,
right?
Yeah. And then it's for inauguration. And then I'm like, who else is Mrs. O, right? And then he said, please keep this a top secret. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So I was just like this. Okay. Wow.
How long were you like that?
Yeah.
How long were you?
I was just like for like 10 seconds. And then my assistant passed by, and then I said, Sophia, come here, read this. And then Sophia went, oh my God. And then, wow, this is such an opportunity, so we were like sitting in front of the computer for a few seconds, and then, all right, so we cannot tell anyone.
I get goosebumps telling you. You're telling me the story. I get goosebumps. I'm like imagining. I just so happy for you.
And so Sophia and I were like, but what are we supposed to do? What kind of sweaters? I mean, he didn't even attach anything. Like, we have to do this in 2 weeks. I mean, what are we supposed to do? And then so we were like, oh, there's a follow-up email. All right. So there was a sketch. And so he actually designed the whole outfit. So he designed the whole ensemble. So again, like, my job is to interpret the design, the sweater part. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And okay, did you get to meet her or no?
Oh no. So it was kind of really strange situation too, because so anytime that we get like an important job like this, whether it's for celebrity, for movie, for politicians, it's always through the stylist. So we send the piece to the stylist.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, so we send it to DC.
Tell me the moment that you saw her wearing it on live national television, not just national, but international, right? People were, all eyes were on her. Tell me what you were feeling at the time.
So I was still at home. Because I usually don't go to work until like maybe I usually leave around 10, 11 from home, because, I have to cook first in the morning. I have to take care of a lot of things in the morning. So my assistant texted me around 9 o'clock or like around 10 o'clock, something like that. And then she sent me a screenshot, and then she said, we did it. And I was like, oh, it's all over. So I didn't see live.
Okay, but what was your feeling like at that time when you saw that?
I felt accomplished. I felt it's such an opportunity of a lifetime, I mean, hopefully there will be more, because now the stylist follows me on Instagram. Okay, so who knows?
No, I'm just so proud of you, because of course, I know you're American now, but your background is from Indonesia. And so I want to introduce you because and Michelle Obama is someone I really truly admire. She's such a great, wonderful woman, and to be able to have you, designing, making something for Michelle Obama, especially Michelle Obama, that is. Yeah. I'm sure there are a lot of sub-letters that you have done. Maybe even other people have done a lot of celebrities, but Michelle Obama, come on, she's the woman, right? So I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you for doing that. It's amazing. Yeah, yeah, It was. I wasn't nervous or anything. It was just more like an excitement out of anything, if anything. Sure. Yeah. Okay, my last question for you for today, Evita. What do you, there's a lot of young women in Indonesia, especially, who might be watching this, right? What would your advice be for these young women when they want to venture, and taking risk, whether it's going overseas or studying something that maybe their parents don't allow them to do, whatever it is? What would your story and journey be that can advise them at this time? Well, here's one story. So a friend of mine, his name is Jared. He texted me last night about my really, really old business card. I posted it on my Instagram. It's really funny because when he texted me, I said, oh my goodness, this is my first address, with the first PDR Knitting address. And then, so I posted it on Instagram. And then after I posted it, I just realized that was actually the first business card that was so cheap. It was handmade. I printed out of, vellum paper because I could not afford the stationery at the time. And so I printed out in my inkjet printer and then hand cut everything. And then it still had uneven edges, right? So I was like, oh my goodness, I said, and then I texted my friend back. I said, this was not even a real business card. This was just like a made up business card because I didn't have anything, when I started. And then he said, I'm keeping this. And this is like a history. And then I'm thinking, wow, okay. So
now that I think back, like, I remember now how I started, and then I'm thinking like maybe I can say it also in your, show today, that, if there is an opportunity, you should just seize the opportunity and just be brave and, take a risk. And every action will have consequences, but if you never take a risk, you will regret it later. It's better to take a risk and fail, at least you try, than not taking a risk at all, knowing that you will be successful.
Yes, yes.
I think
Okay.
I think that
that is, yeah.
yeah.
That's a very good advice. I think with your story just now, that how you became PDR knitting, you definitely took a lot of risk, especially just now you said there are a lot of uncertainty at the time, right? You had comfortable jobs, but you left all that to start your own company, right?
I mean, again, like everything doesn't happen overnight. Nothing happens overnight.
Sure.
It takes time. It takes a lot of failures. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of perseverance, a lot of tears, a lot of sacrifice. Even for me, until my children were like 10 and 9, they've never taken any vacation. And that is something that, not something that I regret, but I'm thankful that they were willing to understand. I always said, Mama is working hard. Mama is working hard. I'm sorry, next year we're gonna have a vacation. So 2 years ago when we went to Indonesia, that was the first time that they actually stepped on a plane, and then they were like, oh wow, what is this? What is
Wow.
this? And my husband and I were like, oh, we wanted to cry, because they were just so amazed at anything. But now I'm at a place where everything is taken. It has its own place right now. Like I have trusted managers, I have trusted product developers. So even if I take a vacation for a month, everything will still run smoothly, which is really good. So they're not dependent on me anymore, and I'm not a control freak anymore. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Evita, I wish you all the best. And by the way, if you do come back to Indonesia, I live in Jakarta, by the way, but if you're back here, please let me know. I would love to meet up with you physically, face to face, but I want to thank you for the time here, and I wish you all the best with your company, with your family, and your safety in LA as well. Okay. Thank you so much. And I really apologize about the early
that's okay.
technical issues. I don't know what happened today.
That's okay. That's okay.
Thank you so much, Evita.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch. Yeah. All right.
Okay, thank you so much. Goodbye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.